And that recording will actually be emailed out to everyone probably by tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. So if you want to go back and reference anything that took place during the presentation, feel free to go back and watch that recording. Also with that is a questionnaire. So we just ask that you please fill out the questionnaire with that recording. The questionnaire, 4 questions long. It should take you no more than 2 minutes to get through, but we do appreciate that feedback. The next order of business is the chat is actually open. So if you do have questions, we will give you the opportunity to post any questions into the chat, or at the end of the presentation, we will have a designated Q&A time. So if you do have questions and you want to ask those, you can either do them through the chat, or at the end of the presentation, I'll allow people to come off mute and ask any questions that they might have. So completely up to you on how you want to ask those questions, but I would say, maybe hold off on some of those until the end. I know we'll have a brief intermission that you can ask questions then, but again, feel free to come off mute and ask the questions, or post those into the chat. And then from here, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pass it over to Tim. Tim, if you want to introduce yourself and talk about what you were looking to chat about.
You bet. Thank you, RJ, and welcome everyone this afternoon, this evening, wherever you're at. My name is Tim Haverkamp. I'm the Senior Strategic Partnership Manager for WGU in Colorado, and I'm pleased to partner with the great folks at DaVita to bring you this webinar today. They have a wonderful program for you, as RJ just alluded to, including interview tips and also insight into what it's like to work at a DaVita center. We do highly encourage interaction, so please come with questions and comments. As RJ mentioned, that chat will be open, and then there'll obviously be an opportunity, obviously, if you want to come off mute to answer those questions. So we do ask for your questions and your engagement. Also, I know that our audience is spread geographically across the country. And so if you're able, if you could please post what state you're joining us from, so we can get a sense of where everyone's at. That would be great. Besides WGU students, for this particular session, we did invite students from Colorado's community colleges, and I did want to talk to them specifically for just a quick minute. And if you are a community college graduate or current student thinking about transferring to WGU, certainly we can help you. Our partnership with the Colorado Community College System enables us to offer many unique pathways to make the transfer process less time consuming and more affordable. And students with an associate's, either an AA degree or an AS degree, usually qualify for upper division standing at WGU. And this position allows you to waive up to 60 quarterly credit hours, which is pretty remarkable. Most of our programs are around 120, so you're able to essentially bring in half of those transfer credits, which is great. And depending on your degree program, you may qualify for additional requirement waivers. If you have completed some college coursework but have not earned a degree, WGU will conduct a transcript evaluation. Those bringing work experience may also potentially waive some of the work or some of the credit requirements. I'll post a link to our transfer page so you can see specific transfer pathways from Colorado's community colleges to WGU's BSN program. I'll also post my email if you'd like to contact me directly with any questions. I just want to say too briefly that to sum it up, over the past 4 years, we've had over 1,500 students transfer from a Colorado community college into WGU. And in that time, our 2-year graduation rate is 74%, which is pretty remarkable, and just a 2% drop rate. So I encourage you to explore some additional opportunities we have to offer. Now with that, I'd like to turn it over to our great partners at DaVita, and I'll welcome in Amanda Rogers. Amanda, all yours.
All right, thank you. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and then we'll jump on into this. Please let me know when you guys are able to see that.
Yep, it's up.
Perfect. All right. Thank you guys. Okay. So we'll jump in and first we'll start off with a little bit of introduction. So my name is Amanda Rogers and I'm a talent acquisition supervisor with DaVita. I've been with the company for almost about 5 years now, came in as a recruiter and worked my way into this position over the last couple of years. And I'm responsible for managing a team of recruiters who hire our clinical staff in the Texas, Louisiana, and Alabama markets. Carrie?
Hi, good afternoon, evening, everyone. I'm Carrie Howard. I'm one of our senior directors for talent acquisition. I also started as a recruiter at DaVita about 12 years ago and have been able to work my way up. I have supported markets where Amanda lives or supports. I also support today all of the basically west half of the United States, so from Kansas to the west. And then I also lead our integrated kidney care, which is our value-based care programs. And I work very closely with our hospital services group and our home modality group. Christy, I'll turn it to you.
Great. Thanks, Carrie and Amanda. And hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be with you guys this evening. I am in the Central Time Zone, and I see many of you are also as well. So good evening from Louisiana. I oversee our academic practice partnerships for the enterprise, particularly for nursing and our PCT, so technician programs. And I report directly into our chief nursing officer. So I sit on a team of 4 national nursing directors. And again, my focus is all academic practice partnerships. So again, it's great to be with you guys this evening and looking forward to our discussion.
Awesome. Thank you guys. All right. So what we're going to be talking about today is what is DaVita? Who are we? And what we're here to talk to you guys about. We'll also be talking a bit about some interview tips and tricks and interview process at DaVita. That'll be between Carrie and I. And then Christy is going to do a clinical overview for you guys, talk a bit about what you can expect in that area. So to start us off, a little bit about us. I've got a video here, so give me just one moment. It takes a second to load. Oh. Okay, I was like, I swear I tested this before I got here, guys. All right. Len, let me know if oh no. That's what I get for touching things. All right. No audio. Okay, that's what I was looking for. Okay. Shoot. Luckily, no one's talking in this video. There's just lovely music in the back. All right. And a little bit more about us. So our vision is to build the greatest healthcare community the world has ever seen. Our mission is to be the provider, partner, and employer of choice. And as you can see here, we've got quite a lot of core values here at DaVita that we just bring into our every single day here. My personal favorite has got to be continuous improvement. I think that we can always be doing better. And I see that in everything that we do here at DaVita. But this is just a little bit about us on who we are and what we stand for. Fun fact is that DaVita is Italian for he or she gives life. And I just think that this is probably the coolest thing about DaVita. I know it's probably really silly, but it is one of my favorite facts about us. Speaking of facts, a couple of other things for you guys to know about us. We have spent 12 years on Fortune's World's Most Admired Companies list, and we are a leading provider of dialysis care in the U.S. 5 years in a row, we have outperformed the industry combined in CMS 5-star ratings and 3, 4, or 5-star ratings. We have 55,000 plus teammates, which is just absolutely incredible. Hoping to add a couple more after this. We have 18,000 plus nurses strong. Always looking for more though, can never have enough nurses. We have 207,000 plus patients. We've got nearly 3,000 dialysis centers in the US and nearly 300 dialysis centers in 10 countries outside of the US. Additionally, we have about 800 plus hospital partnerships that Carrie works very closely with on those. But just a couple of things about us. I know that not many people are super familiar with DaVita, so I wanted to make sure that you guys got to learn a little more about us. But enough about us, let's talk about you and interviewing. So Carrie, I will toss it over to you.
Perfect, thanks Amanda. And I do want to make sure we note that healthcare experience is not required to work at DaVita. We are really, really good at training, and we offer robust training for our clinical teammates, upwards of 12 weeks, for our corporate teammates, many, many months of training. And so while I think sometimes you see healthcare and it may feel a little daunting, trust us, background, what we care about more is the person and can they do the job, will they do the job, and we can teach everything else. So what you can see here, this is our very high-level overview of our interview process. I will say this does depend slightly on role. So if it's for a patient care technician role, this is probably a pretty common selection process. If it's a corporate role or a leadership role, there may be other steps involved, but want to give you just kind of a high level. So I'm going to start with the application process. We actually on our career site have a really handy dandy assistant. Her name is Danny, and she is a chatbot that we have in place to allow candidates to easily navigate our career site and even ask questions. So if you have a question around like, what are our benefits? Or I'm looking for a manager job in this zip code, Danny can help candidates navigate to get to the right job so that the application process is seamless. From there, you are directed to Workday, which is our applicant tracking system, and that is where we collect the actual application. I would say from start of clicking the application to apply to finishing probably takes about 15 to 20 minutes. So just as you were thinking about the interview or application process and time commitment, definitely keep that in mind. From there, we do have two roles. So we have a patient care technician and a healthcare operations manager role, internally known as a facility administrator. Those positions do have a pre-hire assessment, and that is sent immediately after completing application. Each of those assessments, I would say, probably take about 30 to 45 minutes. So again, make sure you block the time off. You don't have to take them at the completion of application, but I do recommend taking them shortly after so you keep your momentum going. Based on the assessment results and or if no assessments required, just a resume and the different qualifications that someone may put on their application or resume, that is when you would be contacted by your recruiter. Our recruiters use a handy dandy tool called Calendly to help automate the interview scheduling for candidates. And so once you select an interview time, typically our interviews are 30 to 45 minutes. And as recruiters, we want to cover a resume overview or application overview, just understanding what are your background, what is your experience coming into DaVita. We also want to ask questions about and get a better understanding of what's important to you. What are you looking for? What's the type of work you want to do, and what are you going to find fulfilling? And we'll also ask typically 1 or 2 behavioral interview questions. And at that point, we'll also go over the role and just the nuances of the role, right? Schedule, understand what you're looking for pay. All of that we cover in that first interview with the recruiter. Based on that interview, if things go well, and obviously if you still want to move forward in the process, that's important too, you would have the opportunity to meet with our team, our operators and our hiring managers. And we typically do a team interview. So you'll meet with either 2 to 3 leaders and teammates for that step in the process. We do behavioral interviewing, so really understanding based on your past experience, how does that relate to the skills and capabilities that we're looking for at DaVita? We will also ask in this interview other kind of motivational type questions to, again, understand, is this a role where you're going to be happy and where you're going to be fulfilled? We have a motto here, as you can see with the video and just, learning our core values. We have mottos for everything and acronyms for everything, but one of the things that we talk a lot about is hire to retire. So at each step of our interview process, we want to make sure that we are a good fit for you and you are a good fit for us, but that has to be both, it has to go both ways, because we really want to create an opportunity where you can start at DaVita and grow your career like Christy, like Amanda, like myself, and really see a long-term opportunity. And then after the interview, if that goes well, we do extend an offer. We typically start with a verbal offer where we will discuss the pay, the role expectations, again, just to make sure it's a good fit, and then also confirm start date. You would accept the offer, though, actually in our Workday system where you put your application in. And then upon accepting the offer in our Workday system, that's what triggers our background check. So we are a federal contractor, we are a healthcare organization, so we do a thorough drug and background check. And that also does include employment verification and past employment checks. And I would say the whole kind of background check process typically takes about 2 weeks before a new teammate can start. And while it looks like a lot of steps, I acknowledge that we actually can do it pretty quickly. We really do understand speed is important. We want to give candidates the best opportunity to get through our process quickly so they can make a decision quickly when they're actively interviewing. So typically it could take anywhere from 5 days in best case scenario to maybe 20 on average for the whole process.
Okay. Perfect.
And in terms of getting ready for that recruiter interview and the hiring manager team interview, we did want to provide some tips and tricks. So as you're thinking about interviewing, and I think this goes for DaVita as well as any other organization out there, think about your experiences and come up with, what are your highlights? What are the things that you're most proud of? What are your strengths? And they can be from a variety of experiences. So it can be from work, it could be from personal, school, volunteering. Capture maybe three to five of those things and make sure you talk about those in every interview you go to. You're also going to want to think about your career as a journey, and I know I mentioned this multiple times before, but think about what's important to you. What are you looking for, and what is the work that you want to do, and be able to articulate that and express that in an interview. When it comes to getting ready, role-playing really does help a lot. So use your friends, use your family, Google interview questions, commonly asked interview questions, and just take the time to prepare. Being in that interview or candidate chair, that interviewee chair, it's tough. And so it is helpful to role-play as much as you can before you get into any interview. The research that you can do, think of it multifaceted. So yes, you can go to the website. Yes, you can learn about the company there, but also go social, go LinkedIn, go Facebook, go Instagram, some companies, even TikTok, if that makes sense for you. But you can learn a lot on those pages to just understand what it's like to work for the company and do kind of broader research to give you a good sense of what the company is, what they might be looking for, and you can also interview or research who you want to interview or who you're going to be interviewing with, better way to say that, and learn a little bit about their background and experience so you can talk about that in the interview. In terms of getting ready, always ask questions. So prepare 3 to 4 questions. They can be as high level as, why do you want to work here, or why do you work here? What has been your career journey? Or it could be really detailed questions based on the job you're interviewing for. If your interview is virtual or live, try to be early. It does help. 5 minutes on average is pretty good, just to give yourself some time to decompress, get situated, and get ready to go. And then if you're live, remember to bring copies of your resume, dress professionally, or even ask your recruiter, if you have a recruiter in the interview process, what should I wear, what should I bring, and make sure you're also using everything that they share with you to get ready for that interview. And with that, I'll turn it back to Amanda to talk a little bit more about behavioral interviewing.
Excellent, thank you. All right. So Carrie kind of touched on a little bit about what our interviewing process looks like, but the goal at DaVita for selection is to determine if the candidate can and will do the job. So that can do fit is really about competencies or knowledge, skills, and abilities to perform, critical job tasks successfully. So for example, what are your communication skills, or have you been able to execute job duties in your previous role, and that these may be required of you, for the position that you're applying to. So it's really about, can you do the job? The will do side is more of a motivational fit. And Carrie also touched on this a little bit, and it's really to make sure that you're going to be really fulfilled in your role. So the motivational fit is to be able to match between your preferences and values to the what job that you're applying for, and what is DaVita offering. So will the job match your values and preferences? Are you willing to take on work that requires a lot of adaptability, be on call? Does acting as a leader motivate you? So things like that are really the things that we're looking for when we are looking at that will do fit. So when we're thinking of selection, we're going, not only can you do the job, but will you do the job? And that's what equals that really good fit for us here at DaVita. So in the interview itself, we typically ask behavioral questions to understand your can and will do fit. So we're going to kind of go over a little bit more of what that looks like and what those behavioral questions and style can be. So behavioral-based interviewing, or more widely known as STAR method, and STAR stands for situation, task, action, and results. So if you could ask behavioral-based questions, we're looking for you guys to respond in a STAR format. So this format helps you, you guys or all of our candidates to convey a clear response and helps us better understand your can and will do. You'll want to respond in a way that elaborates on each of these areas so that we can understand what you have done in the past, because you have done it in the past helps us to understand what you're capable of in the future. So situation is, what happened and what was your role in that? The task being, what was your plan and to handle it? Action, what did you do and how did you do it? So this, you really want to be very specific in this area. And then on the results, how did it turn out? So when you guys are prepping for your interviews, I have always found that it's really helpful to think of a couple of things that you've done really well, or really difficult things you've had to overcome in your past careers, and then kind of write it out on a STAR method to be able to prepare yourself for those interview questions and be able to better articulate, just with a couple of bullet points for each of these, to really be able to talk to your not only recruiters, but the teams that you'll be interviewing with around what you have done in the past and what you can do in the future. So, alrighty. So that concludes the TA portion of this. I'd like to open it up for questions here for a couple of minutes before we jump over to the clinical side of things with Christy. Does anyone have any questions either in the chat or I'm not sure, RJ, Tim, if they're able to come off of mute?
Yes, so they are. If you do have questions and you want to come off mute, you can do that, or you can post them right in the chat. Completely up to you. And as people are thinking of some of those questions, I did have a question. What's something that really stands out to you all going, candidates going through the interview process? So, there's a lot of people that are applying for positions that, have similar types of experience or education. So what's something that really jumps out to you during the interview process?
For me, on resumes, I would say that it's likely going to be data. So a lot of people will put down just basic tasks that they have done. And when you're looking at a bunch of resumes, especially for, PCTs and RNs, things can look very similar. So if you're able to put in any data points about the impact that you made in your position or how many patients you cared for, and this goes for not just clinical roles, but I think really any position, those are the things that are going to catch a recruiter's attention when they're just reviewing resumes.
And I would add, from an interviewing perspective, I think of a couple things. I want to see in someone's background and experience, are they proactive? Do they take initiative? Do they drive for results? We are a very results-driven organization, and so I want to see, does someone take that proactive initiative in certain situations? Also, I constantly think in the back of my head, would I want this person to take care of my grandma or my mom or my dad? what we do is life-saving work. And so I want to, you know, are they empathetic? Do they take care of their patients? Do they treat patients really well? Those are like the two things that I really look to listen for in the interview of, you know, is that showing up for a candidate?
Thank you both.
And then I see here that we've got a couple of questions in the chat. So the first one, are there opportunities available for people on the National Guard? And Carrie, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe the answer is yes. We are very much open to anyone serving, coming out of serving into civilian life, and we'll do whatever we can to help you get a job with us. And
we have a lot of awards for being a military-friendly employer. So we do support all members of service, and including those in the National Guard who may need to take time off.
Yep, perfect, thank you. Next question, with applying online, do you value cover letters? That is a great question. I think in certain positions, they can be incredibly valuable. In others, I don't think that they're necessarily needed. I think for clinical positions, I don't particularly feel like they are necessary, but for our more corporate positions in-house, I would absolutely recommend them. And that is a place where you can stand out. That's where you can, you know, a tip that I learned was use the company's language in that cover letter. As Carrie and I have mentioned, we have a lot of, you know, phrases and acronyms and things that make DaVita DaVita. So if you are going to submit a cover letter, make sure you use it to stand out from the competition. Carrie or Christy, anything to add on that? No? Okay. All right, next question. As a health information management technology student, ooh, that's a mouthful. Is there any jobs right now I can apply for? I work for DaVita right now as a PCT. Well, hello. Man, for that specific, I would say that that's probably starting to head towards an FA type of a role, would be my best guess. There might be some other positions on the corporate side that you could explore. Carrie, any other positions that I might be missing? I think that.
Yeah. So I would definitely, if you are a PCT right now, I would absolutely reach out to your FA and I would ask, you know, hey, here's what I'm doing. Here's what I'm really interested in. Here's why I'm getting my degree in healthcare information management technology. But there's a lot of really cool programs. Like we have a program called CWOW that's now live. I know they have hired teammates in the past to help roll that out. PATH is rolling out, and this is a lot of DaVita acronyms, but it's a lot around digital and technology transformation in our clinics. And so there are some great roles that might be a good fit for. So I would definitely talk to your manager to see what might be a good fit with what you're pursuing.
Awesome. Thanks, Carrie. Another question from Allie. Are there any remote opportunities? Yes, we definitely have remote opportunities, both on the clinical side as well as on our corporate side. The best place to review those is definitely going to be on our careers website. And I believe you can filter down for it, and you can use Danny as well to get some help on that. And then I see we've got a hand raised. Tia?
Yes, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I do have a question. Into regards to Vicky's point about having a cover letter, I've been looking at your site through LinkedIn, and there's only the function for easy apply, which doesn't allow for a cover letter. And I am in the process of changing career from operations manager to project manager. So I would like to emphasize that change through a cover letter. So how do I submit that to you in the application process?
Yeah, so I would recommend going directly to our career site and applying that way. A lot of our postings on job board type of websites are going to be easy apply. Thank you, Carrie, for ease of use. But yeah, if you head to our career site, you should be able to submit any and all documentation that you'd like to include in your application.
And is there a way that I can reach perhaps one of you or somebody directly to make sure that it's looked at?
Yeah, absolutely.
Highly interested in the position that I'm looking at right now.
Absolutely.
Happy to make introductions.
Yeah, we can provide our contact information at the end if you're all right with that, Carrie.
That's great. Thank you.
Oh gosh,
so much.
absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you.
And feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn too.
Yes,
that's another great way to network internally within DaVita, because we have a lot of DaVita connections.
Yes.
Wonderful. That's promising. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Go ahead.
I have a question, Amanda and Carrie. So I'm just sort of curious when you talk about the behavioral sort of component of the interview, would you be willing to give us an exact example of a behavioral question?
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, it's been a while since I've interviewed people. I'm sure I remember one off the top of my head here, but yeah, so one of our questions for like a PCT level, which keep in mind that is one of our more entry level positions, but one of the questions I believe was, tell me about a time that you had to solve a problem without help from your supervisor. So that's a question that I've asked quite a few times. Another one would be, tell me about a really stressful day at work. And what made it stressful. So a lot of our questions are going to be in that type of framework of a question. Tell me about a time when, essentially. So we're looking for an example of a time when that happened. And we typically have follow-up questions to those types of things. And I don't know if you can remember any other questions off the top of your head, Carrie, but those are the first ones that came to mind for me. But the questions will vary based on, obviously, role and what exactly that we're probing for. They tend to fall under a certain type of a theme. So, teamwork or safety, things like that. So they tend to come with questions before we're going to jump into the clinical side of things with Christy here. If there are no more questions, I'll keep an eye on the chat if there are anything. And again, we'll put our contact information out at the end too if you guys have any further questions. But without further ado, I will flip it over to Christy for our clinical overview. We do have another video, so I'm hopefully have figured out how to share audio now. So we will try to jump into that. But Christy, this is our first slide.
Sounds great. Thank you, Amanda. And that was such a great discussion on that prep before interviewing. So great information. Thanks, ladies. So first of all, nephrology, kidney care is very, very complex. And we're building an entire course based on nephrology nursing right now. So I think, the best way to kind of just give you a taste of it in the few little minutes that we have here is to think about it from what we, call the interdisciplinary approach. As our patients really have to interact with so many sectors of healthcare, that interdisciplinary team approach is crucial in kidney care. And so when you just drop takes to ensure our patients are safely dialyzed every day, we look at all of these roles that you see here in front of you. So what I will do is we'll just take it clockwise. So I'll start at the top with the facility administrator role, and we'll work our way clockwise. So the FA role, facility administrator, is really the CEO of the facility. They're the captain of the ship, and they ensure and oversee daily operations. They manage the entire team. So they are responsible for what we think about our 4 buckets of business. So operations, growth, we say CASP, creating a special place, and that's all about team. So ensuring our team is well cared for and that they have what they need. And then number 4, clinical and quality, ensuring that our patients are receiving safe treatments, high quality treatments. And that facility administrator does not necessarily have to have a clinical background. Many of our FAs are what we call non-clinical or non-licensed. And so as we move around the circle, the next role is the CC, the clinical coordinator. This is the nurse that's in charge of quality care in the facility. So you can kind of think of the CC or the clinical coordinator as the second lieutenant, if you will, the second person in charge to ensure and oversee safe and high quality dialysis. Those nurses, according to our conditions for coverage, so our regulatory guidance, need to have about 18 months of experience before they can step into that role. So they're high quality nephrology nurse experts. As we move around the wheel, then we have our registered nurses. And so these nurses can be new graduates. That's what I'm very involved in is ensuring we get students into our nurse role. So they're new grads and they're supported for an entire year. So many of you have probably heard of nurse residency programs. We have that at DaVita too, and we support our new nurses their first year. So our registered nurses deliver the care on the floor and oversee what's happening with the dialysis treatments, administering medications, troubleshooting, and supporting all of our technicians who are also delivering treatment. So that takes us to our PCT role. This is such a fabulous role. Our PCTs and nurses are just have a name for everything that's not what it really is. So we absolutely love and adore all the folks that you see on the screen here, and we have tons of programs that support our PCTs and our registered nurses. I think we may talk about some of those in a few minutes. But when you think about the PCT role, they're delivering the hands-on care. They're starting the treatments, they're monitoring the treatments, they're wrapping up the treatments. They have this wonderful opportunity to develop really close relationships with our patients, and they are a huge part of ensuring that our care plans are comprehensive and meeting our patients' needs. And then as we move on, we move to the dietitian roles and the social workers. So our dietitians are key in supporting our patients' protocols, so the medications that they're on, all of the different treatments and the labs that go along with the kind of the periphery of what happens outside of the dialysis treatment. In addition to a key role in the interdisciplinary team. And then our social workers kind of think of, when we look at our patients, we look at them holistically, every part of their life, you know, and we all have emotional, spiritual, physical needs. And so our social workers really address all of those needs. So when we think about a lot of our patients, you know, they don't necessarily have access to the medications that they need for various reasons. Well, our social workers just kind of drop in like a superhero and ensure that they have the ability to access all the programs and resources available to our patients, for whether it's medications, whether it could be meals, it could be needs for home health. Nurse who can come in and help and assess the home situation for improved health and better outcomes. That's kind of what we think about with our social workers. Okay, let's move up the wheel with the biomed technicians. So our biomed technicians are crucial in ensuring that our equipment is well maintained, and that we can repair our equipment in a timely manner when they're taken out of service. If you think about it, that dialysis machine is a part of the patient's lifeline. Dialysis is a life-saving treatment, and so our biomed technicians play a crucial role in keeping those machines up and running. And when they do have to come out of service, they're very quick to ensure that they're repaired quickly. And not just the machines, you guys, but there's an entire water system room in our clinics that our biomed teammates are responsible for. And then finally, well, not finally, we'll talk about our medical directors too, but our last two roles are administrative assistants. They keep the clinics running. So when you think about, there's a reception area, there's lots of paperwork involved, communications. They're that front facing teammate that our patients see when they come into the clinic. And oftentimes, you guys, our PCTs take on administrative assistant roles too. And so they can straddle both, which is kind of cool. And then finally, our medical directors oversee and are responsible for and accountable for the delivery of safe, quality care in our clinics. They are a nephrologist who is board certified. They participate in our our monthly quality programs. They oversee all of our population health outcomes. And essentially partner with all the folks you see on the wheel here to keep the team moving forward and mostly overseeing safe and quality care. Okay, we can move to the next one, Miss Amanda.
All right. Now bear
Yeah,
with.
let's see. Yeah, and look, if the audio doesn't play, the main thing I want you to take away from this is I want you to just see like a glimpse into the clinic.
All righty. Sorry. Oh, share computer audio. There we go. Found it, Carrie. Okay, let's see if this works this time. Oh no. Oh my goodness.
It's okay, no worries. I just mainly want you guys to see kind of the inner workings of how the clinic is working.
All right. I'm not going to touch anything because that seems to be the problem here. Right.
All right. So, you know, there's always going to be some sort of a technical issue. So thanks, thanks for your patience with that. But mainly, I think, you know, like I said, I wanted you guys to get a glimpse inside, you know, to the adjacent to each other. So you saw the recliner with the machine. A typical clinic has about 12 stations in it. And we'll say, you'll hear us say 12 plus 1. The plus 1 is an isolation room. So, patients who need to be dialyzed in isolation because of hepatitis B, which is highly, highly contagious. So, we need to make sure that we isolate those patients. And then you got to see, all the garb. So what we call our PPE, protective equipment. And that's really important because there's an entire unit of blood that is circulating outside of the patient's body. So there are potential intense than just regular old universal precautions that we see in other healthcare settings. So yeah, so let's go ahead and move forward. Some of the programs that I alluded to earlier, you see here on the screen. One of the things that I always say is DaVita will ask a lot of you, but DaVita will invest tremendously in you and your growth and development. So you see some of the great opportunities here on the screen, some of the awards. I will highlight one here because I want to make sure we have enough time for Q&A. The Learn Award there at the top, and then we also have what we call the Get Tech Award. So the Learn Award is for our registered nurses so that we can send them to our nephrology nursing conference every year. And that's happening this week. So I'll be headed out to Palm Springs on Friday, myself and the rest of the nursing team, along with about 30 Learn Award recipients. So nurses in our clinics across the country who are going to join us for the Nephrology Nurses Conference this year. We're so excited. We just had the Get Tech Award, which was the National Association for Nephrologists, where we did the same. We awarded a host of our PCTs across the enterprise and flew them out to Las Vegas just recently for the NANT convention. So that was super cool. But again, you see here on the screen, lots of opportunities for tuition reimbursement, tuition discounts. Obviously, WGU is we just absolutely love our WGU partner and all the opportunities that our teammates have with WGU. We also have some other pieces on here. Academy, I do want to point out Academy. Academy is where we send our teammates. It's an immersive experience in our DaVita culture, which is very, very unique. And it's just a great way to kick off your tenure at DaVita. Okay, we can move forward. Okay, SIP is just simply a student internship program. And the nuts and bolts of it, we invite students, so nursing students, PCT students to come into our clinics, spend time as they're working on their practicum hours, and it gives them an introduction to kidney care, which they otherwise would not have. And so when you know and you're informed, you can make better decisions about your career. And so that's why we love the student internship program, because we can give you, it's like informed consent. We can expose you to a whole section of healthcare that otherwise you would never be exposed to. And I've been in kidney care since 1999 and tried to leave it one time and grieved it and got back as soon as I could. Okay, Amanda, we can move forward.
All right, that is your last slide, Christy. So unless there's anything else you'd like to add, we are open to questions. All right, Marcus Fleming, you've got your hand raised.
Hey, I want to thank you all for taking the time out to do this presentation. Just got a question about the FA role. Is it more business driven versus being clinical? Or...
No, all 4 buckets of those. I love it that you asked me that question, because no, they own all 4 buckets of our business: clinical, team, ops excellence, and growth.
But you do not need, in most cases, a clinical background to be an FA. We do, in some situations, need a clinical FA in that clinic, typically ones that do not have a clinical coordinator. But if you do not have a clinical background, then that clinic would have a clinical coordinator to kind of cover your butt.
That's right.
Thank you. And can I ask another question while I'm on?
Of course.
Is there like a training program for someone who like is interested in the FA role? Is there like an internship?
There is not. Okay, so once the candidate is hired as an FA, there is definitely a robust training program that then takes place for the FA role.
We do not currently have any external internships for FA roles, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure if Redwoods would fall under that, Carrie, but I think that's kind of a different question.
Yeah. We will train to be an FA, but we don't necessarily train like the leadership experience that we would need for the role. And we also, and Christy, you'll have to keep me honest here, but I have always thought of ourselves at DaVita that regardless of what role you're in, FA or otherwise, we may not be clinical by education, but we are all clinical. And so it's a motto that we live by.
That's right. That's why I was so quick to say no. When you said, is it more business? No. It is definite. Even if you don't have a license, you're clinical. Okay, there's a chat. Can you share more info about the new nurse residency? It's 1 year. So it's our transition to practice program, also known as a nurse residency. We fully support our new grad nurses in their first year. So after our nurses go through their 3 months of onboarding and training, at month 4, they continue on in this transition to practice program. So think about networking with peers, access to leadership, mentoring. We also teach, soft skills and health and wellness and balance. A lot of nurses get into that 6-month mark, no matter what career path you take, whether it's in the hospital, primary care, kidney care. New grad nurses often hit that 6-month mark, and we call that period a crisis of belief or a crisis of choice, maybe not belief, but it's a crisis period. And the point being where it's like the honeymoon phase is over and reality is setting in that, oh my gosh, I'm taking care of these patients, no matter what setting you're in. And so that is a very, very important time that we wrap our arms around our nurses and ensure that they're getting what they need, the type of support that they need to continue on. And once we kind of get through that hump, around that 6-month mark, they just spread their wings and fly. And it's just the most beautiful, beautiful thing to watch a new nurse become an expert eventually. Super cool.
Thank you, Christy. Any other questions out there? Talked you all into silence. All right. Well, I will put, Christy, are you okay with your contact information going out there as well? All right.
Absolutely.
I'll put all of our contact information in the chat here in just a moment. But thank you guys so much for your participation today and all these wonderful questions. This is our first event with WGU, and this was a great way to kick it off. So RJ or Tim, I don't know if you guys have any other things to add here, but I think that's all from us.
Yeah, so just a reminder to everyone that this session was recorded. You'll get that recording tomorrow, and then attached to that recording is a questionnaire. So please take the time, fill that out. Should take you no more than 2 minutes. And I did want to just say thank you for jumping on this evening and learning a little bit more about DaVita. And then absolutely to our DaVita team, thank you so much for coming in and presenting. This was fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you, team. It was great meeting you all, and thank you for participating all out today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks again.
Thank you.